Sadashivat Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Admadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvara Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Yomagda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Namaste. Welcome to our Q&A. We will follow up on our Viveka Chudamani. I got a couple of questions, a few questions here. Let's begin with the one from Lynn. She says that although I am in the Shravana and Manana stage of Jnana Yoga, I have a question on Nididhyasana. So the first thing to understand is that she says, although I am in the Shravana and Manana, I have a question on Nididhyasana. I would say that there is no really sharp, clear-cut line or distinction between Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana, as we know, it's traditionally, literally means assimilation of self-knowledge. Okay, it's assimilation of self-knowledge, and this assimilation, although self-knowledge is there is something that it almost looks like an event in time, which is often related to a moment when you have a total clarity about the truth behind all these statements of the Upanishad. There is a moment that you say, wow, now I'm clear, now I know. You know, often people refer to this click, this clarity, this doubtless vision, understanding. So, but this is a build-up. The ignorance that somehow compels us to live from the standpoint of duality, from the standpoint that the objects are real and they serve the purpose to complete myself or satisfy myself. So this ignorance, it's very complex and it's very extensive, and it's sophisticated, it's intelligent, this ignorance. So it requires these bits and pieces of assimilation of self-knowledge following the logic as presented by Vedanta. So it's these bits and pieces of understanding, of assimilation, of ha-has, and so on. It builds up, it builds up, it builds up. And then we begin developing this sense, this vision, or this sense of reality as non-duality, everything is happening in consciousness, and consciousness is my true nature. Okay, I'm not the mind. Mind is somehow a reflection of myself. So all these understands, they grow as our doubts, as our comprehension, and which grows to become more and more firm conviction in regards to our true nature, which is free, which is limitless, and so on. So assimilation, it goes gradually as we assimilate different aspects of this teaching as presented by the Upanishads with the help of a teacher and so on. So we go on, building up these bits and pieces of assimilation. So what I'm saying here is that when you say, I am in the Shravana and Manana stage, so I don't really agree with that statement, because our classes are very advanced class, which involves a lot of Nididhyasana. Because if you wouldn't have that base of assimilated knowledge, you would not be on this class. You know, there is a lot of knowledge. I have been following you in this process for the past year and two that we are doing this work together, and I see that your knowledge is becoming clearer and clearer. So there is a lot of knowledge that was already understood, assimilated, you know. So all of that is going to create the base on which the last doubts, you know, they just clear, or the last or click of full doubtless conviction, you know, that is something almost like the last drop when the glass overflows, you know. So all of that requires a lot of assimilation of this knowledge. Okay, so we cannot separate these three stages of this process, because we need to submit our mind to the teachings, and that is referred to as Shravana, you know, listening, and requires a lot of good qualifications to be able to listen, really listen to the teachings without distorting or filtering or changing it, you know. Or there is someone here waiting and I was not seeing. So Karen is joining us. So listening is already quite something. And then as we listen, you know, it's inevitable that we begin reflecting and thinking about it and contemplating about it, you know, and having doubts about it. And then we begin, you know, clearing and exposing our doubts. And a lot of these initial doubts, they are resolved by on their own, you know. I mean, the inquirer himself or herself doing this work to understand the scriptures. It's a lot of these doubts, they get cleared, and the ones that are a little bit more persistent need to be cleared with the help of the teacher. You understand? So this is the process of manana that we have been doing, you know, for the past 1 year or so, more than a year, because we met together last September, if I remember, huh? Well, I mean, not together. Lynn was not there, but Ruth was there in Carbondale with David and some other folks. So this small group of ours is working for over a year now. And there is a lot of assimilation of knowledge that already took place. You understand? So the question is, what is the line between Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana? There isn't really a tangible line, you understand? So we keep doing all of that simultaneously. We listen to it again and again. We contemplate, we meditate, you know. So by the way, when we talk about contemplation, meditation, we're talking about Nididhyasana, because Nididhyasana is the Vedantic meditation, which is different from simply trying to control the mind, trying to control the sense organ, the thoughts, you know, or bring the thoughts into one pointedness focus, you know. All of this is Upasana. All of this is different. But when we go through Karma, Dharma, and Upasana, and then we want to do the Vedantic meditation, which is totally different. It is a contemplation, okay? It's not a meditation in the sense, it's not like controlling, disciplining the mind and the thoughts, the sense organs, the organs. No, it is like, it is thinking, contemplating, you know, on the teachings as presented by the scriptures. And that is Nididhyasana. That is Manana. We are contemplating. And Nididhyasana is even a farther stage of contemplation, because there is already so much assimilation that took place that we are on the deeper waters of Vedanta, so we could say, you understand? We are really questioning and contemplating, you know, on those most profound statements which determine, you know, the nature of Satya and Mithya, the nature of Jivatma and Paramatma, and which way Jivatma is Paramatma and which way it is not, So all of this, we cannot really separate. So if we, for example, we take notes and then later on, we're going to go through our notes. So is that Shravana, Manana, or Nididhyasana? You understand? So when we are going through our notes, we may get into more and more assimilation, because now we had the class, we took notes, and then I do my reflection and contemplation and start my Vedantic meditation, and then right there is more assimilation taking place, more understanding, more clarity. I'm building more clarity in respect to this Vedantic vision of reality. You understand? So it's not something that we can just do like pa. You do a few years of Shravana, and then although here and there we may see some presentations on those terms, you remember the 5, 10, and 15 years, which makes altogether 30 years, huh? So it's just an overall structure to say, oh, be patient. You have to go through several years of listening, and then years and years of contemplation. And then after that, it's better you keep doing Nididhyasana, you understand? Nididhyasana for another 15, 20, 30, or for the rest of your life, because there is always some ignorance that may surface in the life or in the mind of the young even, So it means to say, don't think that moksha is something that happens overnight. It may, but generally speaking, it doesn't. And don't think that self-knowledge is the end. Self-knowledge, in a way, is self-recognition, self-realization is the beginning, because after that, we need to keep doing our spiritual work so that this self-recognition can translate itself into moksha, into this freedom from being pushed around by residual ignorance. So let's say, you understand? So it is more on those terms. I have a question then on Nididhyasana, Lynn says. Is Nididhyasana only available once Manana is complete? Or is it a matter of employing Nididhyasana in those moments when Jnana Atma, the knowledge of the self is available, Aparoksha, Jnana, is available? So I did not understand what you meant by is available, or is a matter of employing Nididhyasana only when the self-knowledge is available, when this Aparoksha Jnana is available. What do you mean by that, Lynn?
Well, I've heard that. I think that your first unfolding of my initial statement answered all the following questions, actually. Okay. But I had been thinking about Nididhyasana. Supposedly, Nidhi means Swarupa, or the essence of things, and then asana, sit. So I thought Nididhyasana was just a constant presence of a firm conviction, aham brahmasmi, and that in that conviction, one was alert to karma and dharma and everything, and then deconditioned the individual, and like perfecting in a Nididhyasana, so that all the ananda is available, so that the person isn't bound by old habits and beliefs and things like that. Yeah. As they come up, just deal with them as they come up. But so it's like from what you said, I kind of understand it sort of in the same way that knowledge and action aren't really, there's not a clear line between them. Like I'm understanding more and more that karma yoga and jnana yoga just enrich one another like crazy. So it's like they almost are not separate at some points.
Well,
And,
no, I wouldn't.
so
I wouldn't agree totally with that statement in respect to karma, karma yoga, action, and yang yoga, because they are two different universes, you know, and there is a clear-cut line there, because every action we do, you know, it will never produce this understanding, but it will produce a better mindset, a better, more sattvic or more purified and refined mind. So actions are good to prepare the mind, but actions, all yogas of contacts, of doing things to achieve or gain or accomplish some things, you know, they are very, very important. They have their place, but they belong to a different sort of yoga, you know. Is the yoga of becoming, yoga of contact, yoga of doing something to get something. And when we go into karma, dharma, yoga, upasana, we want to get what? We want to get mental purity. We want mental refinement. We want to have a very sattvic mind so that we can even go farther in our process of assimilation of the teachings of the Upanishads, you understand? So those are, there is a clear distinction there, because there are, when we do something, what we gain is a betterment, an improvement of our mental condition, or we may gain an experience. People who are more experience oriented, they do things even spiritually because they want to have a better experience of themselves and the world around them, and that's all right. Okay. So, and then there are certain other actions that they are not as linked to experiencing the world in a more positive way, but they are very much clear and focused. Though, no, I'm doing things because I want mental clarity, mental purification, you know. And when we come to Vedanta, we do things, and the result we want is not really an experience, but it is an improvement, a betterment of our primary instrument by which we experience, which is different. That I'm doing things so that I have a better experience of myself in the world. I'm doing things because I want to have a pure, clear, and sattvic mindset, you understand? And then, of course, the experience of satisfaction is a natural byproduct of a sattvic mind, you know? But there is already a subtle distinction there, because the karma yogi does things, and not really for any other reason, but for mental purity, mental refinement, and so on. You understand? That's the goal of a karma yogi, you know? Or the upasana yoga. A lot of people do upasana for the sake of having a sattvic mind, and on which a lot of spiritual, mystical experience take place. So that's where people may start diverging from Vedanta, because the purpose of Vedanta is not that. The purpose of Vedanta is to clean up the mind, to refine the mind, and so that this mind can be used for the purpose of understanding those Mahavakyas of the Upanishads, you know, those determinations, those teachings, you know, and then for that we need to. So I'm saying that because there is a notion between every action that we do spiritually, you know, in a spiritual context, and our Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is not a mental, a verbal, and neither, and much less, a physical action. You see? So when we do things, we do mentally, verbally, or physically. So what we get from that? We get an experience. We get a better, you know, mindset. We more better and more clear mind, etc., etc. So all of these are going to produce a betterment. Now, when we get into Nididhyasana, which is the Vedantic meditation, what we do is a totally different sort of action. Some people may challenge Vedanta and say, but that is also an action. It's an intellectual action, you know, but it is altogether of a different nature. You understand? because you are no longer repeating a mantra blindly or anything so that you may pacify your mind or calm down. So you are just done with all of that. What you are doing now is contemplating on the teachings, and the end result of those contemplations, studying and contemplate, is assimilation. You understand? So you are assimilating your nature as Brahman, your nature as consciousness. It's becoming more and more clear. So it's a totally different sort of action, if you want to call a contemplation an intellectual action. You understand? But we have to understand that all actions, they somehow, they lead to a different experience. And the intellectual action proposed by Vedanta, it leads to what? To understanding, to assimilation, you understand? To knowledge. So this contemplation leads to knowledge. And all other actions, mental, verbally, and physical, leads to what? Leads to an experience, you understand? Leads to an improvement, a betterment, you understand? So, but there is another kind of sadhana, which is the Vedanta suggests sadhana, that leads to knowledge. And this knowledge is not like a objective scientific knowledge. It's self-knowledge, because you are inquiring in the very, very nature of your intellect. You understand? The source or the nature, fundamental nature of your mind, of your intellect. So it's self-knowledge is the result. And this self-knowledge is a totally different sort of result, because it's the knowing, it's the knowledge of the true nature of the knower that was mistakenly identified as a person, as an experienced knowing entity, you understand? So that produces what we call a paroksha jnana, direct and immediate, self-knowledge. And that is possible only through Nididhyasana. Okay, sorry for opening up this, parenthesis, but please go back to what you were telling me, Lynn.
Oh, I think it's much more clear now. And I was thinking that the seed of these questions all have to do with the fact that I still believe in this duality. I want a little 8 compartments and what happens when. It's a little bit of my scientific mind going, dividing things up and so forth. But I will listen again. And I think you have answered, all the following questions just with your first statement. So
that is not really a tangible division between manana and Nididhyasana, but there are a clear-cut division, separation between all yogas and Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga, one of our gurus in the recent past, said that the Jnana Yoga, if you want to call that a yoga, it says it's a yoga of no contact, because all other yogas, it's kind of, I'm trying to bridge this condition, this state, this experience, with something which is my goal, my accomplishment. It's a becoming, it's a merging, it's getting into something, becoming something, accomplish something, So there is always duality, and there is always becoming. There is you understand? And a contact, joining, the literal meaning of the word yoga. So when we say Jnana Yoga, to correct this possible confusion, one of our Mahatmas recently said, yes, okay, we call it yoga, but it's the yoga of no contact, because you are not trying to understand anything other than your true nature, your true self, your true identity. So you are not really contacting something or going to become something or gain something or get something. You understand? You are already the tense man. You are what you are searching for, and there is nothing you can go for. It's an effort to understanding that you are that which is always ever present without ever modifying your experience. So you work on understanding something that it is here and it is in every moment, but it somehow is concealed by the notion that I am the Jiva Upadi, I am that which is not always present and changes from moment to moment. So there is a confusion between what I am because I took my Upadi, my Jiva Upadi, to be the self, you understand? So we don't become the self, we are the self. There is no becoming, there is no gain accomplished. It's just a question of understanding. And this is the yoga, the yoga of no contact, the yoga of no becoming, of no gaining, no accomplishing, and so on. And then Lin ends saying like, so are manana and nididhyasana to be cultivated together, or does nididhyasana arise naturally once manana has been refined? Yes. So you are doing the manana. You're doing the manana, and naturally and gradually, nididhyasana takes more place. It takes place, and it expands. The assimilation. It arises naturally as the manana gets deeper. The manana. Another way to look at it is the manana is similar or it's equivalent to applying knowledge to ignorance, and as we apply knowledge to this universal cosmic ignorance, so there will be more and more nididhyasana taking place naturally and gradually, So because manana now is getting deeper and it's getting more and more refined, as you said. Anything else on manana and nididhyasana from anyone?
Arlindo, can you explain me more exactly what we mean with Upasana yoga? Can we define a little better what is Upasana?
Upasana yoga in simple language is meditation, you understand? And but meditation in Vedanta has a different connotation as the meaning of the word meditation developed in the West. So in the West, we meditate just to develop a more peaceful mind. We want to relax and then we meditate, right? To calm down the body mind. So we meditate. So in other words, we meditate because we want to have a better experience of ourselves and the world. If my mind is too agitated or too depressed, I don't feel good and I don't relate properly with the world and so on. So I meditate so that I can function better. It's a therapy in the West, meditation. So in the West, meditation has a different connotation. In the East, it has a different connotation because meditation is always meditate upon something. There is an object of meditation. In the West, they say just watch whatsoever comes, or go into Vipassana, watch your breath, and then gradually you're going to calm down, okay? And there is nothing wrong with calming down, okay? But in the West, in the East, when we meditate upon an object of meditation. And within the Vedic context, culture, we always meditate on Ishvara or Brahman. We meditate on Saguna Ishvara, different forms, different aspects of the Lord manifest, different deities and all these gods. So we meditate on Ishvara, which is Saguna Brahman, or we come to a point that we meditate. The mind is so refined that now I'm meditating on the nature of Ishvara before the gunas, meaning to say Nirguna Ishvara, Nirguna Brahman, which is a very subtle meditation. You're meditating on Brahman, which is the nature of Jagata, Jiva, Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. So when you start meditate on the substratum, that which pervades, it permeates everything. So you are meditating on Brahman, the nature, the only reality, the nature, like space, the nature, the fundamental nature of Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. So that is a very profound and very subtle meditation. But this is also Upasana. Upasana is meditating upon an object of meditation, howsoever dense or subtle it may be. Okay, so somebody may meditate on, I need to have a new boyfriend, I need to have a new girlfriend, and one may meditate upon that. I need a new house, and one begins meditating. So this is a very kind of gross sort of meditation, you understand? But as our object of meditation refines, you understand? And then we enter into the spiritual world of meditation, of Upasana. So we keep meditating on an object of Brahman, which is the most subtle, which is Nirguna Brahman. You understand? So what does this do? It brings always, that's the main purpose of meditation, Upasana. The purpose of meditation, Upasana Yoga, is to bring the mind to one-pointedness, which is fundamental for us to enter in Nididhyasana, in Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. If the mind is all over the place, it cannot go through the process of listening, reflecting, and contemplating, because it's going to be crowded by all kinds of different thoughts, bring the mind to right and left and so on. There is no peace to our mind. We did not yet develop one-pointedness, focus, understand? And once we go into this practice of Upasana Yoga, but in the Vedic context, my goal, my object of meditation is God, God manifests as Ishvara, or God as unmanifest as Brahman. So that is my object of meditation. So the subtler becomes my meditation. More the mind is subtler. So another purpose for Upasana is to make the mind more and more flexible and subtle. And all of these are qualifications that are absolutely necessary for our Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. You understand, Claudio? This is also Upasana. Okay?
Yes.
Upasana, and now we brought God into the equation. Now we meditate on some sort of different shapes or different notions of God. And then as my meditation, my mind becomes subtle and subtle, and then my object of meditation becomes subtle and subtle until I'm meditating on the nature of Brahman, the nature of Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. But this is all about bringing the mind to one point, okay, of focus. So one-pointedness, and now I meditate. So this is not Nididhyasana. This is Upasana. What is the difference between Upasana and Nididhyasana? Because Nididhyasana is something else. Nididhyasana is study and contemplation on the teachings as it is presented by the Upanishads. You understand? You are no longer practicing Upasana, which serves the purpose to expand, refine, make it more subtle, and make it more one-pointed. So the mind, you are working the mind, okay? Now that you have one-pointedness, you have a subtlety of mind, a sattvic mind, a clear mind, you understand? A flexible mind so that it can receive these concepts of the Upanishads that are absolutely radical, and counterintuitive. So once you have that kind of mind, and then you have a good mind to go into the Vedantic meditation, which is called Nididhyasana, which has nothing to do with controlling the thoughts, controlling the sense organs, the organs of actions, controlling the speech, controlling our emotional reactions. All of that goes into the sixfold disciplines. You remember the qualifications for Vedanta? Discrimination, dispassion, discipline, and desire for
discipline,
yeah,
desire.
Within disciplines, you're going to do all these regulations and control of the mind, which is basically Upasana Yoga, you understand? So you do that until this grows to become so subtle that now you have one pointed mind and you are meditating on the nature of Brahman, which is the nature of everything. And then a pure mind like that, very subtle, and then it has to go into the next stage, which is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. You understand? You have to start the scriptures until all ignorance was cancelled, or to a large extent was cancelled. You understand? The distinction between Nididhyasana and Upasana. The process, the Vedantic process, goes through Karma Yoga, which is not much different from Dharma Yoga. Ramji came up with this concept that there is such a thing as Dharma Yoga. But no, I mean, Karma and Dharma are the two sides of the same coin, you understand? So you need to understand the laws governing the Dharma field so that you can understand what kind of karma, the laws of karma, and what kind of karma you present, actions you present to the field. So we go through Karma, Dharma, and then Upasana, and then Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So 5 levels, 5 stages, you understand? 5 stages. Karma, Upasana, Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the only little doubt that I have is you say that with the Upasana Yoga, well, essentially Upasana Yoga, if I understand, is meditate, contemplate on something, right? Can we say that?
But Upasana Yoga is to bring the mind to one point, one pointedness.
Okay.
That it is meditating or concentrating on one thing, because your goal is to educate the mind, be able to stay put on one thought, one object of thought, one meditation. You need the mind to discipline the mind until it learns what it is to stay focused. It's like a child. A child is all over the place. You can never educate a child or a little dog, So to discipline a small little child is difficult because, there's so much energy to go all over the place and jumping from one to another. So the mind needs to be educated so that it learns to stay focused. Without focus, without this, it's very difficult. The difference is that in the West, most of these meditation techniques, they are deprived of God. They want to bring the mind to focus on something for the sake of relaxation. But originally, in the Vedic culture, meditation is meditation on one form or another form of God. And that's the purpose, to bring the mind to develop this ability to stay focused Because later on, in order for us to understand the statements of the Upanishads, we need to have a focused mind.
Yes, exactly. And Nididhyasana is more contemplating the teachings as presented in the
Exactly.
Upanishad.
Yeah,
Okay.
you are studying and you are reflecting and you are contemplating and you are assimilating the teachings as presented.
Okay.
The Upanishads with the help of a teacher. So you are following the logic of the teacher,
Okay. Okay.
which is going to reveal to the individual that he's identified with something which is not his or her true self.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the difference between the Vipassana is what we do in West, we can say, and it's more, is not exactly to concentrate the mind, but it's more to relax, to not concentrate, only to be on the observer, something like that. Exactly. This is the difference between Vipassana and Upassana.
Let me illustrate a little bit by telling my own process, my own story, okay? So when I began in the spiritual world, in the beginning of the 80s, you understand, 1981, I became a devotee of Osho Rajneesh. And then I was introduced to what? To meditations, and there was all kinds of meditations. But the meditations that Osho Rajneesh was presenting us with, which was combined with therapy. Before I got to Osho Rajneesh, I had done already a lot of therapy because I had a lot of difficult karmas when I was a young man, a very young man. So then I got into meditation, but the meditation was a very gross form of meditation, the one I could handle, because my mind was totally rajasic and extroverted and dispersed and so on. So I stayed a long time doing what they call meditation, but it was mostly bioenergetics, you know. Osho used to call dynamic meditations. It's just jumping and screaming and shaking and doing all kinds of things and different breaths, patterns, all things to release stress and tension. And then after doing stage 1, stage 2, and 3 of these crazy meditations, he would suggest to us the last stage was 10, sometimes 15 minutes of sitting silent. So after we would just throw away all that stress and tension, we would have a small taste of peace, you know, of silence, very small here and there. And then it would give us what, wow, there is something like peace, there is something like clarity or you know, and so on. So I stayed many years in my life shaking the body and screaming, doing all kinds of crazy meditations to get rid of all these toxins from my system, you understand? Stress, rajas and tamas or whatever. So later on, after a few years, I could successfully begin doing Vipassana yoga, which was a big thing because Osho was very much focused on Buddha, because Osho was against the tradition, you know, and he threw away the tradition and he threw away God, and he was mostly inspired in Buddha. And then Vipassana was a meditation that took me years until I could really appreciate, because in the beginning it's a torture. Just get a small child and tell the child to sit for 15 or half an hour doing nothing. He's going to feel like he's being tortured. So now you get someone with a mind that is stressed, extrovert, you know, and tell him, no, you sit now for 1 hour, 60 minutes, you know, following your breath. What happens? What happens that a lot of the time I would fall asleep, which was a very common thing, you know, among the people who were trying to enter into Vipassana meditation, fall asleep because you're too rajasic, and then rajas converts into tamas. You cannot really, you don't have one pointedness of mind, you know, to stay focused on the breath. And then we would fall asleep. It was a common thing to see people falling asleep in sessions of Vipassana. It took me years until Vipassana started clicking for me. So what was happening? My mind was becoming more pure, more sattvic, and I did not know. I did not understand, but my mind was becoming more subtle. Okay, and then I could sit down and stay focused on the breath coming in and out, and that used to give great satisfaction in a sense that, oh, there is some progress happening here, you know. So later on, after I left Osho Rajneesh and after I went to stay with Papaji, and in the process, I got to know Nisargadatta Maharaj. Nisargadatta Maharaj, I was introduced to a very subtle sort of meditation, which was the one presented by him. He learned from his guru. And it was to bring the mind to focus on the sense, feeling, thoughts, sense, feeling, I am, I exist. I am, I exist. I am, I exist. I am. Before you add any attributes or qualities or characteristics to this I am, I exist. I am, I exist. So what happened? When I moved into that meditation, it clicked for me, and it was a very subtle meditation, and I was really having a good time with this meditation. And I was looking at my friends, and most people would say, no, for me, it does not mean anything. It seems like just a mechanical repetition. I am, I exist. You understand? And it would not click. And to me, just to bring the mind to be focused on this thought, feeling, I am, it was so powerful that I used to go into a lot of states, you know, of bliss and peace and silence and so on. Why? Because my mind was developing sattva and I did not know. So I was there. And then what used to happen? Sometimes I was too stressed, Claudio, and I want to go and sit and do my I am, I exist meditation, the one suggested by Nisargadatta, and it would not click. So what I would do in that case, I would step back and I would do a meditation technique, which was more gross, and I would stay 10, 15 minutes focused on the breath. You understand? Mm-hmm. And then once my mind was more subtle, more sattvic, and then it would click and I would go into bring the mind to the sense, thought, feeling, I am, I exist, which is a very subtle, and it's one of the most powerful upasanas, because you will bring the mind to be focused on this very sense, thought, emotional feeling, I am, I exist. You understand? Very powerful meditation, Upasana Yoga. So it all depends on the state of our mind. You understand? So we need to play with it to see what is possible. So once the mind is settled, and then it comes a point that somehow Ishvara presents the scriptures on self-knowledge to us, because it's not enough to have a sattvic mind, you understand? You have a sattvic mind, and this sattvic mind must serve the purpose, and the purpose is self-inquiry and self-knowledge, you know, the scriptures. And everything grows, understand? All right?
So can we say that Nisargadatta teaches you Upasana Yoga? This was a form of Upasana Yoga.
Everything was yoga. Nisargadatta Maharaj used to say very often, you must meditate, and meditate on the thought, sense, feeling, I am, and this will deliver you. But he did not have any teachings, proper teachings. So most people got stuck in sattva around him, those who developed purity. You understand? I think you heard me say that in my own process, when I have already given up, because in order to survive, I had to begin a restaurant in the United States. It was very, very difficult, 10 years. And I was already giving up on my ticket to enlightenment. And then out of the blue, my mind became sattvic, and I was not aware of it. And then when I thought, every time I was sitting quiet and closing my eyes and doing anything, or opening my books, or Nisargadatta, which was my Bibles, his books, you know. So I would go into that effortless state of bliss and peace and love and, you know, and balance and so on, so deep satisfaction. You know? So that's when I realized there is something moving here. You understand? There is something happening here. So this is all punya, spiritual punya. The mind is developing sattva, you know, these qualifications and so on. Okay?
Okay. And then you meet Ramji with the Vedanta, right?
Well, no, I mean, with the teachings of Nisargadatta and my mind, I mean, in the very end, it was after I was in the States, I couldn't get rid of this seeking vasana. I have studied everything, and I knew that I was consciousness, everything is consciousness, but I was not convinced of this truth. So as a result, I was going right and left. Wherever there was satsang or a new guru, I want to go and try, you know, in the hopes that. So I went through Adyashant and Gangaji in the USA and some other gurus. You understand? I was trying. I couldn't get rid of this seeking vasana. So and then one day out of the blue, and then is when my mind became sattvic when I least expect, and then I started meditating. And I was meditating, and I was going into a lot of beautiful states, you know, of peace and satisfaction. But then I was frustrated as well because whenever I used to suspend my sadhana, I would lose that state, which is understandable now for us. Yeah? Now we understand the difference between knowledge and experience. So I would suspend my sadhana and then my mind would modify and then I will feel like, oh my God, this is not taking me anywhere. Now I have to go back to my restaurant and nothing has really changed. You understand? So when I was really like getting frustrated about this, and then a book came into my hands of the guru of Nisargadatta Maharaj. In that book, he describes a very clear distinction between knowledge and experience. Then that book opened my eyes big time. And then I kept meditating and reading the book and reading again, understand the distinction between knowledge and experience. And then one day I gave up meditation. I stood up and then I told Silva, I will never meditate again. And guess what?
But sorry, you say the book of Nisargadatta, no? It was the book of Ramji.
No, a book.
You mean?
A book attributed to the words of Nisargadatta's guru. I have a hard time. You remember his name?
Oh.
I have a hard time to remember his name. Does any one of you remember? So I will send it to everyone in my next email. The name of the book and the name of his guru. His guru was he has much more. He was more qualified as a guru. He has some good teachings there. You understand? It was mostly Jnana Yoga and yoga. He was a yoga as well, and Jnana Yoga. He did not have the teachings on karma, dharma, and so on. But Upasana, his Upasana Yoga was just to stay focused on the reflection of consciousness on your mind until this reflection is so clear and you feel like, oh my God, I am, and to be is the most wonderful thing. It feels so good just to be. I am, when it really clicks. So he presents that as the path to enlightenment. But unfortunately, Nisargadatta later on, he not having developed much skills to teach, you know, he called that pure consciousness. So he says you need to meditate until we realize pure consciousness. But the pure consciousness that Nisargadatta used to refer to was nothing but the reflection of consciousness on a pure sattvic intellect, you understand? And then you have that beautiful sense of satisfaction, of peace, of bliss, of ecstasy, and among other experience. That is a reflection of consciousness. That reflection of consciousness, he has baptized, called pure consciousness. And now we had a problem. So Jesus is pure consciousness. And then he used to say, but you have to go beyond pure consciousness. And then that was very strange. He said, you stay in pure consciousness until a moment comes and you are transferred to the absolute. And the absolute we're referring to was Nirvikalpa Samadhi. You understand? So then you have a sattvic reflection, beautiful state, until the duality subject-object dissolves, and then you are in what he called the absolute, and this absolute is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and that was very, very confusing for most of us, for most of everybody. It was really a mess that he has caused, because he began by teaching people to meditate on this reflection, and then he calls it pure consciousness. And then later on, he calls the absolute as the ultimate reality, which was nothing but the dissolution of the mind, which is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is not enlightenment. It's not really moksha. You understand? Moksha is the firm, clear, and solid, hard and fast certainty of knowledge in regards to our true nature as consciousness. You understand?
Okay.
Arlindo, I was just wondering if you could repeat what you were saying, the distinction between something and experience. What were the distinction is between what and experience?
Knowledge,
I'm trying to grasp that.
knowledge and experience. Ramji did a great work in his books, How to Attain Enlightenment and the Essence of Enlightenment. He was making a clear-cut distinction between knowledge and experience. And the guru of Nisargadatta Maharaj has made it as well. But he used to teach to a very small circle of seekers, people who used to visit him in his village. But he knew the distinction. But somehow Nisargadatta Maharaj, he had very little contact with his guru. Nisargadatta Maharaj, he took really to faith in his heart the instructions of his guru. And his guru said, meditate on the sense feeling I am, and that is going to take care of you, And he had 3 times, if I remember correctly, he met his guru. He got very little instructions besides this one. And then in the end, he had this huge realization or epiphany, and he became self-realized with full certainty and great charisma and so on. But he was not a good teacher, but he has inspired a lot of people, Okay. David, have we covered your question here? Yes.
Well, I would say yes. I mean, I kind of came at it from a little different way, but I think it's really been interesting to, my question really had to do with true nature, and talking more about that, and you brought that up several times, and I think I'm really thinking about this idea of true nature as a commonality, that kind of it's the substrata that when you inquire and inquire and inquire, you're actually getting to what's the true nature. You're asking what is the true nature of everything, and ultimately, like you've brought up, that Brahman is the true nature. So to me, it's just a way of inquiry. So I don't know that you want to take on that topic right now as we're out of time, but I think the true nature is to me, it feels like methodology, or really trying to uncover or get to the root of things, and to the and of inquiry.
Yeah. And the true nature, our true nature is not only that without which we are not what we are, because the nature of something is that fundamental thing about that thing, that if you remove that, that thing is no longer that thing, you know? So we take the mind and the body to be our nature, but, you know, if we remove consciousness, you know, the body and the mind, they don't stand, you understand? So we own our conscious existence through consciousness alone. That's the true nature. Without that, you know, this body-mind complex does not really stand. So, and the good thing about understanding our true nature as consciousness, conscious awareness, is that in this case, the nature of the jiva is not only that which is essential and the most primordial and aspect of what I am, but it is limitless because it's non-dual. It's the only thing, you know, the only game in town is consciousness. So that's the importance of understanding the true nature of Jiva Atma as Paramatma, because we are dealing here with the nature of the Jiva as that which is infinitely limitless, you understand? Because it is non-dual.
So, and that's like the approach of revealing, of removing the veils. The true nature is always there. The true nature is there.
Yeah.
It's the veils that come over it. And our
Yeah.
process of inquiry is to remove those veils, to reveal the true nature, the true nature.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking about that's what inquiry is all about.
Yeah. We are inquiring, following the logic presented to by the Vedanta teachings, the Upanishad, because by following the logic, understand, what happens? What happens that our wrong notions about ourselves is cancelled, is removed, is neutralized by knowledge, you understand? So revealing is like the teachings of Upanishads, they are not going to produce anything. They are going to reveal it only by what? By uncovering, you know, those mistaken knowledge that was preventing our appreciation of our true, limitless, free nature as consciousness, you understand? So revealing is a good word. Revealed knowledge is a knowledge of something which is already there, but it's not seen or perceived. And then you reveal, you just remove the covering.
And to me, this is so counterintuitive to like how I've led my life. I've always had destinations and goals and building and going from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, like we were talking with Lynn, about this. First we Shravana, then we Manana, and then Nididhyasana, and we have this constant progression. And yet, when it really comes down to what we're doing, is it's almost like the other way. We're going in reverse, and we're removing all these layers to reveal what already exists.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very different notion than at least how I've approached my life and gaining knowledge and gaining and improving. So this is very much counterintuitive, and yet I think it's what I love about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole process of mental preparedness goes through a process of improvement or betterment of the body-mind complex, But what we are cannot be improved, cannot be gained, cannot be achieved. What can be improved is our mental quality, so that we can understand that we are already whole, full, and complete. You understand? So we need to improve the mind.
I have to let go stuff. I have to let go of a lot of stuff. So I just have to let go of a lot of things because I've always been, I'm going to become happy. My goal is to become happy. I want to be happy. I want to be this. Or I want to be a subject matter expert. I want to develop this. I want to do this. I want to do that. And this is just very different than how I've led this life. So
Yeah.
I have a lot to let go of.
Yeah, that's very nice, David. Welcome to the party. You are never going to gain or get to accomplish anything here because you're already fully accomplished as consciousness.
And when it's there, it's very nice.
Yeah.
When you really come down to it, it's very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's a burden. It's like getting rid of a burden when this striving for becoming a better person is over. It is such a release. Like ooh,
Well, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Yeah, I'm blessed because I live right next door to true nature.
Huh?
I'm blessed because I live right next door to true nature.
Yes, it's a very
healing
nice
arts,
name.
and
Nature.
where Karen used to work, and yeah.
So just keep in mind that the notion of a true nature is important. And it's even more important to add another adjective there, which is a true, free, limitless nature. You understand? We need to understand that we want to get to the bottom of things until we understand our true nature, not only for the sake of, oh, this is the truth. No, because I want to acknowledge my limitless, free nature. It's limitless and it's free from any circumstance or experience. You understand? It does not change or modify. It's always ever present. It's free, independent, limitless, nature. And Ram has added another good word there, which is simple and ordinary, because as you said in your message here, it is something that is the common element we all share. It's so common, it's so ordinary. Huh? It's the nature of all and everything. Okay. So I want to take this moment to thank you all for your support as well with your donation. It has been very, very, very important and helpful. Okay, the few of you knowing me, I never really ask for money or donation, but it has been very, very helpful at this stage in my life, and I appreciate your contributions and donations, definitely. Thank you all. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. We meet again. What?
Next week, do you plan the same schedule for next week? It's the holiday week. Next week is the Christmas holiday week. Are you planning the same schedule, Monday and Thursday?
I'm available. You let me know. I mean, we had the same question on Thanksgiving. And then we, if I remember well, we changed the date a little bit. So let me know if you want to skip next week or if you want to stay with the schedule.
Well, Christmas is on Friday, so I was going to say Christmas is on Friday. So I think you know, our Thursday morning works for me.
Yeah.
I'm actually have to be out of town on Monday, so I won't be here, but Thursday morning works for me, which is
Yeah.
Christmas Eve day.
Yeah. Yeah. Our
So I don't know about everybody else.
next coming meeting is Monday, and Monday is still much before Christmas. We could keep Monday, right? No problem, right? Okay, then we meet again on Monday, and then we can talk on Thursday or not Thursday or whatever. All right? Thank you again. Much love, big hug. Arrivederci. Namaste.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alinda.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.